So it's time to actually start getting into the details of Objective-C. I kind of liked the way we did Swift. So we had like these Swift playgrounds where we learned about different things at different times. And I wanted to kind of replicate that, right? So I called this unit Objective-C Playgrounds. That is a joke, right? So there are no playgrounds in Objective-C. But we are going to mimic that style of kind of having one concept, be one chunk of code. And we're just going to go through a couple different things in Objective-C Playgrounds, right? Then we'll also do the tic-tac-toe and then the lights out at the end. So the goal of this is to make sure you can perform some basic coding tasks in Objective-C. We're going to have you make a model view controller based Objective-C app. And we're going to make sure you can explain some of the key differences between Swift and Objective-C. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our code. We're going to talk about how we're going to set this up to kind of be playground-like. So what you're going to need to do to start with is you're going to need to visit this link. It'll take you over to GitHub. And then just like always, click on Download Zip. And then save it to wherever you like. Once you've got it saved and extracted, it should look like this. When you unzip it, it'll probably put on this hyphen master thing just to say it's the master branch. I don't really need the word master. I'm just going to blow it away. But then you'll find that there's three things in here. There's the Objective-C Playground. So this is where we're going to spend all of our time. But then I just wanted to point out two other things. There's the Swift Playgrounds Translated. Let's go and open that one now, actually, just because it'll be quick. When you open it up, you can expand some of these folders over on the left, and you can see that we've kind of got a similar structure to what we did in Swift, right? So these are those same Swift playgrounds just recreated in Objective-C. So we've got basics, and then optionals, and then collections, and functions, and strings, and closures, and enums, and classes. And the way this works is that if you go into the view controller file, so viewcontroller.m in this case, you can see that it's choosing to run one chunk at a time. So this is like choosing to run the basics would be like running the basics playground, right? This function run, if you go look at it, it's actually just a class method. And I just did that just to try to keep the code a little bit cleaner. So if I was to run this right now, it doesn't really matter what device I use because there's no UI at all, right? And so I had to make this an app. So it has to have something that pops up. So I just put up a message that says there's no UI because everything is going to be in the NS logs. And if you go through and you start looking at the logs, you can see that if I ran basics, it does say something. So it prints out my variable, my constant, stuff about past what on earth is it printing. You'll have to open up basics.m to kind of see what's going on here. And if you go look at basics.m, it's got some code in here. And the code in here is based on the Swift code, right? So I took the Swift code and I just translated it into Objective-C. So here, if you wanted to make a variable and then change it, that's great. If you wanted to make a constant, there's a couple different ways you can make constants. One is just to add the word const. That's kind of the most similar to the word let, so I use const here. And then, of course, it's not a playground, so there's nothing that prints to the right. So you have to actually print every little thing you do. I'm actually going to go over to the slides just so I can see both at the same time. So here's the Swift example over to the left. So you can see that's why I chose to name these variables, these things, and what I chose to do. Here's a Swift array and how it's made. One thing you'll notice that I wanted to point out about Objective-C is Objective-C is a superset of C. So anything you could do in C, you could also do in Objective-C, right? So really when it comes to an array, I've got two options. I could use a traditional C array, or I could do it with objects and use Objective-C. And so like this basic example, you can see I did it two independent ways, right? So I did it once with C arrays. So here you can see I made a scores in C, and so I just used a C array. And this whole function is purely C code, right? And then I showed how you could also do it in Objective-C. In Objective-C, the biggest thing that's annoying is that things that go into an Objective-C NS array have to be an object. So you see these at symbols a lot of times. These at symbols, they're similar to what strings did. In order to make it an Objective-C object, they put an at symbol in front of the double quotes. Same here. If I put an at symbol in front of a number, it makes it into what's called an NS number object. If I put an at symbol in front of the array symbol, it makes it into an NS array. So it's kind of a neat little trick for shorthand making objects. And you can see that the syntax is different, right? I mean, I'm sure that you think Swift is cleaner. And so I don't argue that. But I'll say that you can do the same thing, right? Or you could do the same task, but maybe in a slightly different way. And so, I mean, that's one of the things that makes Objective-C still so popular, is that if people have made a bunch of code in it, it still works the same as Swift. So they're not going to go refactor all of it. And to be honest, like, if they've got 100% of their app in Objective-C and they make a new small piece, they're probably going to prefer that new small piece be in Objective-C as well. So it's important you learn Objective-C in case you work for a company that has a lot of existing Objective-C code. If you're starting something new, definitely use Swift, right? But if you're working with something existing, you're probably going to want to learn more about Objective-C. So what we're going to do together is we're going to go through some, but not all, of these playgrounds, right? So one of them that we are going to go through in great gory detail is with classes, right? So here's a class in Swift, and then here's a class in Objective-C. So there's the header file, which is kind of this top piece, and then the implementation file after that. And I mean, we'll go into classes in great detail, but you can kind of see there's a little bit more code. It's a little bit more verbose in Objective-C, but you can do a lot of the same things. So that's the plan. Come back next time. We'll open up that other project, the one that was actually called Objective-C Playgrounds. We'll work through a bunch of those, and then we'll do a tic-tac-toe thing at the end. All right. See you next time. Bye.